Good morning. Matt here from Solvent. Welcome. It's 9 o'clock on Saturday morning. Not quite. Well, 30 seconds to go. But I didn't know how long it was going to take before I pressed the button to go in live. So turns out not very long. Anyhow, we're here. Restart Saturday at 9. Completely unscripted, completely unprofessional. I'm just a guy who's built a product that I use in my business every day. And it's helped me to change my behavior one day at a time. I showed a few people and they said I should make it available. And that's what this is all about. So we're putting some feelers out there. We're finding out, does this fit? Can it help people? Does it make a difference for you like it does for me? So basically today, all we're going to do, I'm looking to do this in 30 minutes, give or take. There's no time pressure. Just going to go through and do 20 to 30 minutes and let's see what happens. All right. So we'll start off. Why restart Saturday at 9? How did Solvent come about? And then I will show you what the product does, how I use it in my business every day. Right. So restart Saturday at 9 came from 20 years ago. I was back in the UK and a guy had been put in my path who was guiding me out the gutter at the time. And I was terrified of him. And one day, every time I got in the car, I thought I was going to die, and I had this impending doom all around me. And one day we were getting ready to go fishing and his missus stopped suddenly and she looked at him and said, "Hey, you watch Matt, he'll get halfway through and he won't want to go through with it." And I didn't know what that meant. And she went, "Restart Saturday at 9. And he went, "Yeah, restart Saturday at 9. But we went fishing. Nothing bad happened. Got back. I didn't die, But for the next 6 months, every Saturday night at 9 o'clock, I was convinced that something terrible was going to happen. And the whole thing was going to come crashing down. It was a destruction thing. And restart Saturday at 9 became this point where everything just got right. I expected a magic button to be pushed and it all started all over again. I thought it was like, didn't quite know what was going on, but there was a tremendous amount of fear around it. So if I fast forward 6 months, having spent every Saturday night convinced that something bad was going to happen at 9 o'clock on Saturday night, it's the day before I'm leaving for New Zealand. And I'm coming to New Zealand to build a new life. And the Friday was a write-off. I came to in the bedsit on Saturday morning. I left the key on the table. I went to walk out the door. I looked at my clock and it was 9 o'clock on Saturday morning. In that moment, restart Saturday at 9, stopped being about destruction and endings and started to become about creation and new beginnings. And I came to New Zealand, got on the plane, ran away from the UK, cleaned up here, and restart Saturday at 9 became a bit of a mantra. And this picture that's behind me here, my sister gave me that for Christmas. And on the first year, having been in New Zealand for a year, and she made this poster because it had become a saying for me. And the actual translation is supposed to be from Saturday at 9, begin again. And that's what the picture means. It's been hanging on the wall for the last 20 years. That's why I restart Saturday at 9. That's why it's important to me. It's about a new beginning. It's a point where I can reset, where I can take stock, have a look at things, because as it says on that side, I'm losing my bearings. As it says on that side, awareness creates choice. Shame and guilt doesn't. And that's what Solvent's all about. So Solvent got built because I had 19 years of recovery, 15 years of recovery. I had 15 years of recovery at the time. And I was further in debt than what I was when I first started. When I sobered up, got with my partner, told myself that I couldn't afford a down payment on a house, but I needed to be comfortable at home. So I took out a loan, and the loan was for a couch. It was for $6,500. Well, within 6 months, I was $20,000 in debt, because I got the bug, fell into the debt trap. 15 years later, I'm $23,000 in debt and no further on. I've got nothing to show for it. I've been making payments all that time and I'm $3,000 further in the hole than what I was before. I needed to do something about it. I understand recovery. I understand that my life's getting better, but I never got ahead financially. Thought about money all the time, but I never seemed to be able to get ahead. And I needed to take control of my money. I learned over the years that the best way for me to change my behavior is to work the steps. So I worked a 12-step program around money, and that was great. You know, it showed me some things. It taught me about daily tracking. You know, they had a little book. The idea was you pulled the book out every time you made a purchase. You wrote down the purchase, what it was for, how much, and then that made spending conscious. But the problem that I had was the daily tracking was so complicated. I had 3 accounts: business, personal, and savings on my debt accounts. The house account it was, sorry. Business, personal, and we have like a joint account, which is our house account. So me and my partner put money into this account. That's what pays the bills, right? So I've got these 3 accounts that I'm trying to track. I've got other debt accounts as well that are elsewhere, but we're not even looking at them at this moment in time. So I'm trying to manage 3 accounts. I've got 3 different spreadsheets, and each one is tracking the finances in a slightly different way. It was far too complicated, you know, and because it was complicated, it took a while. And because it took a while, I soon got bored of doing it and I drifted away, you know. So I thought about building out an app, and I started to build out this app where I could have everything in one place. But life kept getting in the way. You know, I ended up going to America and doing holidays and stuff like that, you know, and spending plans went out the window and it all got unmanageable. So a couple of years later, my son's over from the UK and he gets a job. And in his job, he's struggling to do his paychecks. And the pay lady has to get hold of him every week. And she's like, "Where's your pay slip? Where's your timesheet?" And she wanted this timesheet off him, and he couldn't do it. He didn't have the discipline to do it. What he needed was a little app. He needed a timer where he could push a button, start, stop, at the end of the week, generate timesheet. So I built out this little app for him so that he could put it on his phone. It was just a PWA, had it add to home screen. It went onto the phone, and he would start, stop. At the end of the week, he would generate a timesheet. There's a little place for him to add a comment. And I thought, well, actually, if I could do this for my clients and I could have client information on there as well, then I'd be able to create timesheets for each client, and I could create an invoice from that timesheet. I thought, that's great. Well, then if I'm talking about invoicing, well, what about tracking my finances? And I started to think about the app that I was doing back when I was trying to do my daily numbers. And I thought, if I could have everything in one place, and if everything was trackable from one place, would I have drifted away from the program? Would I have stayed focused on my numbers if it was nice and easy to do so? And that's when Solvent was born. It was born out of that moment where I was drowning. I was $3,000 further in debt than what I was 15 years ago, 17 years ago now. And I knew that I had to do something about it. So we built this app, started to use it, started to track my daily expenses. Because I remembered about the little book where I had to write it out. So I digitalized that. So now when I go to a supermarket, I can pull out my phone, I can track my purchase before I actually swipe my FPOS card. And what that does, it brings spending conscious so that I'm making a deliberate decision. I know that I'm spending this money, you know, and now every morning I track my numbers. It takes me less than 3 minutes a day. What I do is I log into my account. I log into Solvent. I look at Solvent and I've got all my accounts on one screen. I log into the bank on this screen and I go, does that number match that number? If it does, then my job's done. If it doesn't, then I'm going to add my transactions into Solvent that have gone out overnight, check the accounts. That number now matches that number. The job's done. Same for the next account. And the same for the next account. You know, I'm still tracking the same 3 accounts, but now they're on one screen. And I can see everything that's going on. And that's all I do every day. So that's what Solvent's all about. Solvent is about bringing spending money into the present moment. I become conscious of doing it. If I've tracked everything through the day on my pocket, in my pocket on the phone, then that number will match that number. If it doesn't, because a direct debit's come out overnight, then I've got to add that direct debit in here via the desktop app. So I use Solvent on the desktop. I've got a mobile app called Eli, Elevated Life Intelligence. and I track the two from there, and that's how it works. So that's basically how Solvent comes. So we've done why restart Saturday at 9. We've done how Solvent came about. Now I'm going to show you the Solvent system and how I use it every day. Okay. So Solvent is basically, it's a free, there's an always free plan on Solvent. We want to meet you where we are. I'm going to put a link in the chat right now. It's called Solvent Free. And what that does is that will show what the always free plan means. There's a 30-day trial if you want full access. If you want always free, you're going to get no padlocks, you're going to get no restrictions. The question I ask myself is, would I have drifted away from the program if tracking my money had been easy? And I don't believe I would have. You know, it was the fact that it was so difficult for me that stopped me from doing it. Okay. So we've got a very good free layer. So what brought you here today? Drowning in debt, no idea where my money goes, earning good money but not growing, self-employed, and it's chaos, starting over financially. I want to start investing, but I don't know where. Right. Well, these bottom ones are more about the free trial, the 30-day free trial. These top ones are about the free, always free. So what we're going to do is we're going to start on here and we're going to go always free. Right, we're going to sign up. Frank. Let's just do that. That's easier. Get in. Okay, save that for Frank. So when we come through here, we're going to go through a little onboarding. All right, and this is going to be just so that we can set the dashboard up for you. Okay, so we've got, call me Frank. Let's get started. What do I want to do? What's my main focus? Okay, I want to break the debt cycle. How often do I get paid? Monthly. I'm going to use this for personal. How Solvent works differently. Most money apps try to automate awareness away. Solvent does the opposite. So when you link, we deliberately don't link to the bank account, right? It's nothing, it will never happen, okay? People have said, why don't you automate it? Because the thing is all these transactions go on in the background and all I have at the end of the day is a number and it means nothing to me, you know? So it's very easy because I've got no awareness of what's gone on in the background, of all the details that made up this one number. You know, how can I change what that number means if I don't know what's made it up? And that's why we do this manually. We create the manual friction so that I can see every transaction that I'm making in real time, yeah? So every transaction you enter is a moment of intention, not a chore. It's a choice. That small pause between spending and recording is where change actually happens. And that's what I need to do. I need to change my behavior one day at a time, change my relationship with money. Okay, so now we've done that, we're going to add our first account. Okay, and here we are in the Solvent dashboard. Okay, so you can add up to 10 accounts on the free plan. I had 3 plus 4 or 5 debt accounts. So 10 is a solid number. Yeah, you can have 1,000 transactions. I was doing 400 to 500 transactions. Okay, but I make you a promise right here, right now. If money is your problem, I will never ask you for your credit card. Okay, Solvent will always be free. If you're trying to get out of debt and dig yourself out of a hole, then I don't want restrictions and I don't want padlocks stopping you from being able to reach your goals. Yeah. So if money is the problem, we will never ask you for your credit card. Okay. If you hit restrictions and you hit, if you're doing 1,001 transactions a month, then you know we've got a different problem. But let me know, and let's sort this out. Yeah, because there shouldn't be a ceiling if money is your problem. Right. So what we're going to do, we're going to add an account. So this is going to be my checking account. Okay, call it what you want. Doesn't matter. It's a virtual account. The idea that we're going to do on here is we are going to, we're not going to put a balance in here, but the purpose of this account is purely so that I can come into Solvent on a morning and I look and I log into this screen here and I go, does this number match what's in my bank? If it does, then all of the transactions are in here and my job is done. If it doesn't, I need to add my transactions. We'll get to doing that next. All right. So just to show you, we go my savings account. Yeah, this one is savings, and this can be, I don't care what the things are going on here. I'm just putting them on. Right. So now we get a savings account. All right. And let's add, just for shits and giggles, my credit card account. Okay. This one is a debt account. This is credit card. This can be, oh, we'll do ASB this time. And then the balance 4795. Credit limit will be £5,000 because it's always just about maxed because that's where we're at. And then we won't have much. We'll be generous. We'll do 18% interest. Okay. So now different types of account. Yeah. Now if I've got another personal account, you know, this might be like, you know, I don't know. This is my spending account. Yeah, because I might put my money into there. My spending account. Yeah, that can be personal. It's a checking. That's not a checking. That can be savings. It's not savings. It is checking, really, isn't it? Because it's everyday expenses. This one can be West Park. Yeah, put that in there, and then we add that. That's going to come up here under the personal. Yeah, so we're going to get all of our accounts are going to come together. Yeah. Into the same place. Right. So now we've got the accounts. We want to get transactions into the system, right? So the thing with Solvent, right, what we're doing is we're changing behavior going forward, right? But we need to look to the past so we can learn what the patterns are. How do we know what to change if we don't know what's happened? So we've got to get some information into the system quickly. Now, before I can add a transaction, I've got to add a category. Yeah. So, but the last thing that we want to do is if we're trying to get 3 months of data into the system so that we can learn quickly, we don't want to have to go in and enter this line by line. It's got to be easy, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to import once per account, right? We're going to run an import into the account that will get us all of the historical data into the system. And then one day at a time, we're going to track our expenses every day, and then that's when our behavior will change. We never have to run an import because every time we make a transaction in the present moment, we're logging it in here. So every day when I check in, I add those transactions each day so that I don't have to go back and run another import. All right. So that's what we're going to do. So go at the bank, download your transactions, and you'll get a sheet. It looks something like this, right? This is Google Drive. This is Google Sheets, so it's free. If you've been very good with your particulars, you might already have categories on here, yeah? If you haven't, here's a little tip, right? Go into here, create a filter. You'll do that through data. Create a filter is there. I've done it, so it's got remove. Let's do it properly. Data, create a filter. Now I've created a filter. I'm going to data sort this by name. So I'm clicking on my filter. I'm going to go A to Z. Now what I've got is all of my payees are in one thing. Yeah. So we know that Afterpay is a debt payment. Yeah. So we can go there and I can add my own category on here. Yeah. So whatever I want that category to be, category. Yeah. And then what I can do is I can drag that down. Yeah. So it goes to there, yeah. AliExpress, I've been shopping. Yeah. Go. Drag that down. Amazon, shopping. Personal loan. Debt. Yeah. So you get the gist, right? So this whole thing is only going to take 5 minutes to be able to go through and add a category, to each individual line. You don't want to spend too long on this because this is purely about getting something in and around so that we can get the information into the system quickly. Look at that. I do know that espresso is coffee. Yeah. So we'll put that there. Boom. Coffee. Drag that down. Look how many coffees there are. Boom. Yeah. I like coffee. Obviously. Who doesn't? Yeah. So we put that there. So you can see we're soon quickly adding this up. Yeah. Now it doesn't matter if it's in the wrong category, because if it changes on, you want to change it online, change it in the system. I'll show you how to do that. Right. But that's what you're going to do. So do that, file, download, CSV, okay? And then you're going to come into Solvent, you're going to go to import, select file. I've got to find it now. Select file, it's going to be Solvent Demo April, there it is. Open you up. This is coming in here, right? So what we're doing on this page is we're going to map our headers. The first one is a header. First row is a header. That tells us what each thing is. Then we've got here, we've got a date. So our date column is there. The date needs to match DDYY, MMYYY. Yeah, description. This is going to be my payee. So my description, I'm going to map that to payee. And then some accounts will come out as debit and credit. If that's the case, click that, and then you'll get your debit and your credit. So you can map that across. Mine does one account. My amount is in there. So I've got amount into there. And then on here, my category column, on here it's got particulars. It might be the category column that you've just created. Okay. But you map that up. If you've got many of the same bank, if you other accounts are the same as well, you can actually save this rule, and you can save this was the ANZ. And then next time when you upload into your next sheet, you can come here and load the saved rule, and you've got the ANZ in here. It will remember all of your settings and save you from doing it again. But you're only going to run an import once per account anyway. We're now going to go preview import. Now, the beauty of the import is this is going to automatically create all of these categories for us, so I don't have to go in and create them all one by one. The important thing I need to do on this screen is make sure that I'm importing it into the right account. Yeah, so this is my checking account. Yeah, I'm going to import into there, and I'm going to import 161 transactions. Doing its thing. Net impact $300. View transactions. There we go. If this is blank, don't panic. Okay. If it's blank, this defaults to this month. Okay. If you haven't had any transactions this month when you run your import, then obviously you're going to have nothing in here. Click all time, and then that will put your all time numbers on there. Right. But now from in here, you can filter by your accounts. You can filter by your categories, and you can find out. Let's have a look at that coffee. How much have I spent on coffee? Clicking through here, $394. That's nothing. See, that's great. And there's all of my coffee expenses. Now, if this wasn't a coffee, maybe coffee culture here, maybe this wasn't coffee, maybe this was actually eating out. So I can go into edit and I can change my category here. Yeah, so I don't know, food delivery will do. Yeah. So then we change that. That now goes to food delivery. So that's why I say don't spend too much time in your spreadsheet. Your spreadsheet works painful. Let's just get it into the system. You want your transactions in here so you can do them quickly. All right. So now we've got that. We've got information into the system. Now what we can do is we want to now be living on a plan, right? So we can go spending analysis. So let's look at spending analysis. We've got all of our different accounts here. So I want my checking account, right? I want my checking account, and we can do 30, 60 or 90 days, right? So we're going to go last 30 days onto the checking account. And what's happened here, this is all by category, right? So we've got category here, and all of my expenses can be on here. So what I can now do, if I want to make a change, let's look at food delivery. All right. So obviously rent, I want to put that on the plan. That's going to come up every month. Yeah, always going to pay the rent. And then the same for the food, groceries. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Let's look at food delivery. Now on food delivery, maybe I only want to, so you can see my coffee culture in here. So maybe I don't want to buy from Uber Eats anymore. Maybe they've upset me and I want to save that money. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to uncheck them and I'm going to add here. So I'm going to add $103 to my plan. So that's going to give me a category total of $103. Yeah, my loan is not finished yet. Shopping, that'll be fine. Yeah, so what I can do is choose the amounts that I want to add to my plan. So then once I've gone through my whole list, worked out what my spending is going to be, I can then go to my spending plan. I'll come to my checking account and we go to May because we're pushing it forward to next month. Yeah. So in May, I now end up with a spending plan for May where my planned expenses is $2,450. What about my income? All right. Well, what I want to do is, even if I've only got one salary, if I get paid monthly, let's put it on here. Yeah. But we want salary on here. Yeah. Because what I can do now is I can add it a date. Yeah. So we can do the 1st and we can do $800. Yeah. And then we can add another one. Maybe we get paid weekly. Yeah. I know we said in the start that we get paid monthly, but now I've changed my mind. I've had a word with my boss because I've done my cash flow and I've realized that actually I'm better off getting paid weekly. So we'll do the 8th and then we'll do another $800. Yeah. Yeah. And then we want salary. This is important for a reason. Yeah. Because it will come later on. One more. Yeah, we'll do that for the 22nd. Yeah, 22nd. Yeah, $800. Right, that's going to do for now. Right, we'd probably have the 29th as well, wouldn't we, on this month? But that's okay. Right. So you can see now I've got 750 over my limit. So now we've got unallocated expenses. But what I can do here is I can come through and I can add let's put that on the 5th. My groceries, they're going to happen all the time, but we're going to put it onto the 31st because it's the end of the month. That's going to be the end of the month. Because they're going to come out gradually throughout the month. Maybe the loan comes out on the 15th. Shopping is going to be all the way through the month. So I can only put one payment on here. I'm going to do my fuel once a month. We'll do that on the 2nd. And then my coffee is going to be all the way through the month. Right. So that's going to be, this total will be spent by then. Is what we're looking at there. Yeah. So let's save these changes. This takes a wee while because it's got to update plenty of stuff. But what we're going to end up here with is every time we make a payment on our transactions, whenever we do a transaction through May, it's going to come up in here and we're going to be able to track what we plan to spend versus what we actually spent. If an emergency comes up through the month, we can start messing around with these numbers here. Yeah, so maybe, you know, if a car transmission goes, we take the money that we're going to spend on food delivery and we add that to the car transaction. We can adjust these numbers as we go. And we've got one-off expenses that we can add up here to be able to keep everything up to date. Yeah. So that's now saved. We've got unallocated money. So we've got plenty of money coming in. We're all right there. This is a nice example. And then what we're going to do is come into cash flow. Yeah. So in cash flow, this is now how does the money move through the month? Yeah. And Rich Dad always said, more money doesn't solve the problem if cash flow management is the problem. And that's what this screen is teaching us about here. So what we can do in here, yeah, you can see the balance goes negative in here because payment comes out. All right. So what if we click into what if mode here, and now we can start playing around with some dates. So we're looking here, we're in the early dates. So by the 5th of May, so I'm looking down here, look, oh, well, the 5th of May, the rent comes out on the 5th at 1,450, but my salary comes in on the 8th. So if I can change my date of rent from the 5th to the 9th, now, so now you can see that graph's now changed. So what happens next? So we've got a rent coming in there. And then on the 9th, the rent comes out, but it's not late enough. So let's go put that, let's change it to the 20th. Yeah, so we change it to the 20th. Now everything's okay. So then that means what I'm trying to show you here is that the timing of the payment matters as much as the payment itself. We know we've got enough money coming through the account. We've just got to structure everything in the right way. Well, how do I do that? Well, by tracking everything and keeping everything conscious, I can play around with some dates and make sure that everything's working nicely. And that's what the cash flow is. So if we want to keep this, we save our changes. If we don't want to keep it, we just exit and everything goes back to normal. Everything goes back to how it was. But that just allows you to play around with some information. All right. So what we've done now, we've covered a lot of ground. We've signed up. We've come through the free account. We didn't need a credit card. We're on Always Free. We've got no padlocks in the side here. Everything that we've got coming down the side here, we've got access to. Okay. So we've come in, we've added our accounts. We've added 4 different accounts. We can add up to 10. All right. We then came to import. We got a bank statement. We imported the bank statement into the system. We ran our spending analysis for the last 30 days. We chose what information we wanted to put into our spending plan for next month. And now we've learned about how to manage our cash flow through the month as well. That's quite a lot of ground that we've covered there, yeah? We're still on the free account, okay? So I'm just going to quickly go through these other things just while we're dead quick. So we can have goals on here. We can create a goal. Yeah, this would be a savings goal. Maybe it's for a holiday or something like that. We open this up, we add a goal, we create an account. We can link the 2 accounts together. Set an image. It's like a vision board. Why is this goal important? So that it keeps me focused. I can track my goals on there. All right. We've got debt. If we've got debt problems, I wanted to get on top of my debt. So I'm coming into here. We've got the calculators. We've got the debt snowball. We've got the debt avalanche. What's the problem here? I haven't actually got 601 months. I haven't got a minimum payment in here. I'm not paying anything. So I come into my account here. What's my minimum payment? I'm going to add a minimum payment of $250 a month. It's due on the first day of the month. That's fine. So now we're going to click that. Watch this number. I'm debt free in 23 months. Let's now go look at our snowball. The snowball is here. March 28. Yeah. What happens if I paid $500 a month? Oh, that changes to November 26. Okay, so the snowball is where you take the smallest amount and pay it off and compound it. The avalanche is where you pay the one with the biggest interest. Which is the best? Well, let's have a look. Snowball versus avalanche. We've got a comparison. The recommendation is snowball. Both methods are nearly identical, but the snowball is recommended for psychological wins. The reason they're the same is because there's only one debt. So I'm only ever paying one debt off. Yeah. And then again, once again, you've got some what if scenarios where you can add additional information and play around with some numbers in here. All right. Timesheet. I talked to you about the app that I built for Leon. This is his timer app. You know, start, stop, start. Yeah. And then it's obviously felt the start and then stop. And then at the end of the week, he generates his timesheet. Something's gone wrong on there, but that's okay. It wouldn't be a live show if something never went wrong. We've got time blocks. Yeah, help you to manage out your week. What is it that we need to do through the week? You can add a new block in here. You can make them recurring. Okay, and help manage time. So this tends to be task orientated. We've just integrated with Google, and we now have the calendar view as well. Okay, so you can hook a calendar up to here. Today's events will come on here, so you can manage that. You've got your notes that will keep on the side there. All of your time blocks, if you keep a time block in there, it appears on the side, right? So we're managing time, we're managing money, we're managing goals, we're managing debt, everything done consciously. In the settings, you know, like I say, we're locked to personal because we're on the free account. This is the only place you can upgrade. You're never going to see an upsell, but if you wanted to try the other features, that's where you do it. It tells you what they are in there. Preferences. This is obviously preferences. Your primary income account. My primary income account is my checking account. Yeah, if I do that, then that's what's going to affect my income. Any other money coming in from around my different accounts will not get treated as income. It will be just on that personal account. All right, timesheets go in there. Integrations. This is where we connect our Google Calendar. And then we've got the privacy data in here. All right, everything in this system is encrypted. So all of your information before it goes into the database, it's encrypted, it's ciphertext, it's not worth anything to anybody. Your information is safe. We as admin cannot see your information, right? It's yours. Privacy promise. We will never sell your data ever. Right? This is about being clear. We've got very clear privacy rights. They're on the front of the website. You can see them at any time. These are the cookies that we use. Essential only. We never use advertising cookies because we're never going to sell you products on here. Yeah. On the free account, you know, the upsell account on the paid plans do partner with companies, and their services will be made available as well. But on the free account, we're not going to sell you anything. Download your data at any time. Export what you've got, you'll get the file, delete your account. Once you've deleted your account, we cannot get it back, right? Like I say, the information is irrelevant to us. We cannot search. You cannot come to me and say, can you help me with this transaction? Because I can't see it. Yeah, I cannot get that information. You know, ultimately, once it's in here, that's it, it's locked. That's where you get your information. If you need support, click it on here, okay? And then whatever it is that you're wanting to do, feedback form. If there's a problem with the site, you know, here we go. 4 stars, it was good, but bug report, tell us what happened. Timer didn't start. Sucks. Right. Don't need to worry about that. You can if you wish. Helps. But ultimately, feedback's gone in. That's a note to me. I'll check that. The timer will work by the time you sign up for your account. All righty. And that's Solvent. That's how I use this system in my business every day, in my personal life every day. Okay. So we're only doing the free account here. I haven't gone into the business account. I wanted to keep this all about the free account. You will never pay for this system, right? At this level, right? So we started off, I come in here, I checked my accounts. So on a morning, this is the first screen I look. Does this number match the number that's in the bank? Yeah, if it does, my job's done. If it doesn't, I come to transactions. I add a transaction. It was an expense. It was $50. It came out of my personal account. It was for a credit card payment. It was for ASB, wasn't it? It was the credit card. And then I add the transaction there. Boom. That's done. I now go back to my accounts. Does that number match the number that's in the bank? Yes, it does. I'm done. Yeah. And it's as simple as that. I do that for each account. You know, and that's how I live on purpose. I can then come into my spending plan. I can see how I'm going. I haven't got a current month because I haven't done one. I would create a plan here. but I do have one for May. So we'll go in here and let's say something's happening in May. Oh, it's because it's credit card, checking account. Yeah, so I come in here and I can mess around with these. So groceries, well, let's go $250 because I need to find some extra money because something has just come up in here, and we've got here emergency for $50. Or what was it? $800 emergency. Oops, fat fingers. And then that was $800. Add my custom expense to custom, one-off, save changes. I'm now $50 over my plan. So now what I've got to do is I've got to find the $50 from in my numbers here. So I start playing around with these to be able to match up and make that balance sheet in sync. And that's how I live on purpose. You know, I come through and then it's like, there you go. I took the $50 out of the food and groceries. When I saved my changes, that's gone up there. I've now had an $800 purchase. I'm still living on my plan. Every time I'm making a payment through the month, everything's coming through here. I haven't got any transactions yet because these haven't been made. I haven't tracked any for this month. But when I track a transaction, it comes in here. I can't remember what category I put in. It was a credit card payment, wasn't it? And I haven't got one on there. So, but when I track that transaction, it comes in through here. So that's how that works. And then at the end of the month, I'll get a nice little picture as to what's going on. So this is Solvent. If you want to get involved and you want to try out a free account, let me put the link in the chat. That's where you register. Okay, so you would register app.getsolventonline/register. That will get you the Always Free account. Or alternatively, you go to the homepage. Let me log out. And then you go to the homepage and sign up. Yeah. Let me get in here. Get rid of you. Get rid of you. Yeah, get Solvent Online. You come down here. What brought you here? What's the reason? Drowning in debt. Always free. Yeah. So always free. You're going to get no padlocks. You're going to get 10 accounts, 1,000 transactions, access to the debt. You're not. I'm not going to tell you what you're not going to get anyway. If that's something that interests you, you can find that out. But that's Solvent. A bit longer than what I expected to be, but that's okay. I think we've covered a lot of ground and we have achieved our objective, which was to show you that Solvent has an always free plan. Solvent is a tool that you can use to change your behavior on a daily basis by bringing the habit of spending money conscious. You bring it conscious and things change one day at a time. Import your data from the system. So we change our behavior going forward, but we do look to the past to learn. We do one import per account, get that in there, track our transactions daily. Everything starts to shift. And that's how it works. So if you've got any questions, any feedback, please don't hesitate to get in touch. My name's Matt from Solvent, and this was Restart Saturday at 9, and I'll see you next week. Okay, have a good one.